mode.
Good, yes. The thinker. We should all be doing this. Hey, we're live. We should all be doing the thinker mode. Good morning, everybody. This is Patrick Lee, and we are live with Midweek Motivation Live. I'm sitting here with some good friends today. We're going to change up the format of the show today. Many of you have heard of Cody. You may have seen our interviews in the past when he bought the establishment that we're sitting at here today, Fire Slice. And it's the hidden gem, the back alley eats here in Amarillo, and I reference him a lot. It's the number one pizza place in the area,
and the best wings,
and the best
in the entire town.
I'm here for Wing Wednesday every week. Cody Blair and my buddy Jody Holland. Good to see you on here.
Absolutely,
Jody. I could go on and on and on about him, and he would appreciate that. But Jody is a motivational speaker, life coach, author, published author, multiple books. How many books have you written, Cody?
24.
Jody, 24.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them available on every.
You don't want to ask me that because he's written more than I've read.
Yeah, he's written more than you've read. I've forgotten more books than I've written. Trust me. So anyway, these guys just came back from a conference that we're going to get into some of the topics. I was talking with Cody about a week ago. I was in a conference in Vegas, EXPCon, for my company, doing a lot of masterminds, breakout sessions. I'll try to look at the camera more, but I'm also looking at the computer just to make sure we've got people tuning in already. People already sending the likes, the loves to the show. We appreciate that each and every week, everyone that watches. Good morning, Sal. Sal's watching us all the way from down in San Antonio. That's awesome. People comment on the show as we go, and they may even submit some questions, and that'll be fine. But I was at a conference. We had multiple breakout sessions and masterminds. You guys went to a conference as well, a little private deal that I'm kind of jealous.
So I've been hosting the conference for 10 years now. This is our 10th annual mastermind retreat, and it's fantastic. We typically do it in Scottsdale, Arizona, and rent a big house, and it's invite only. This year I think it really stepped up the game because Cody taught us about wine and wine pairing and how to present ourselves a little more professionally than we have in the past. And then we also had a chef this year, a private chef that took care of all the meals for us. And let me just tell you, that stepped up the game as well. That was awesome. Bobby Shane out of Abilene, Texas did that. We had a couple of guys that do community leadership out of South Dakota. So we didn't really have quote unquote breakouts, but everybody taught something. And then we discussed whatever the topic is that they taught. And there was a really cool theme that emerged from it. As you look at how do we get in touch with who we really are to get to where we really want to be. Right. And that's where the selfishness leads to selflessness. And I want to say, wasn't that Vonnie that said that statement?
Yeah.
And I've used that for years because if you study the shadow self, kind of the parts that you repress, the reality is from a decision-making standpoint, every decision that we make is based on seeking a certain feeling.
Absolutely.
The emotional state that we want.
I would agree. That's why we titled the show this week, Why We Do Anything, Really. And the main topic of that is if we want anything out of life, we kind of have to start with selfishness. And I teach on the show, and I have in the past, and I know that you do too. And Cody activates this in life, practices this in real life. You have to operate out of abundance. If you're operating out of scarcity, it's very hard for you to pour into the life of other people if your batteries are depleted. It's impossible. It's impossible if your resources are gone. I've heard a lot of people say if you want anything done that has to be done, find the busiest person you know, then they'll get it done. Because those people have learned how to continuously replenish their resources as they pour out. And if you get that system going, it's almost like a replenishing vibration.
Oh yeah.
So
even as an employee, you catch yourself doing that, and you feel bad about it later. It's like this guy's over here standing over here not doing anything, but you don't trust him to do the thing that you need done.
Absolutely.
Ask somebody that's busy, and the person that should be helping is the person that's not busy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that really, when you talked about that last week, the selfishness, aspect of the topic at the conference. It just really, it hit an emotion. It hit me on an emotional level, and some of you guys know I'm an emotional guy, but because it just reinforces the things that I feel about how I operate too. And I'm one of those guys, and I don't say it to brag, because I do allow myself to get depleted more often than I should. So as a discipline for me, I know I need to go to conferences. I need to get people pouring into me. I need to read more. I need to have more coaching and hang out with guys that, we can all recharge each other's batteries.
Well, the wealthiest people read at least 2 books a month.
That's what I've heard.
Mm-hmm. So
I was listening to someone today, and a really wise guy had went to a conference and was talking to a guy, and at the beginning of his career, and he asked him how many books he needed to read, and I think he said 1 or 2 a month, and he said, "How long do I need to do that?"
Till you die.
And he said, "Till you die."
Yeah.
I think that was you.
Yeah. So I've turned a lot of people on to reading or listening to audiobooks, which is still reading.
Yeah.
Not everybody wants to sit down and physically read a book, but you can, listen on Audible or on iTunes or wherever you like to get your audiobooks. That's the same thing. But I've also found there's a lot of books I don't want to finish. I don't know if you start a book and you're like, that was not good. So I use a couple of different apps to read book summaries to determine whether or not I actually want to read the book. And because I don't want to waste 12 hours of my life on a book that's a horrible book.
Absolutely.
And not every author is for every person. We all have different interests. Like you're a history buff.
Yeah.
So if you read historical accounts of what people did, like biographies or autobiographies, it's an amazing way to get the theme of what successful people did. So point you to the researcher, Dr. Antonio Damasio, who talked about decision making. And that's where I get a lot of Mother Teresa was selfish.
Right.
Is that in the end, every decision that we make is based on seeking an emotion. And he studied the limbic center of the brain, or the emotional center of the brain. You can't go to the grocery store and they ask paper or plastic without it being an emotional decision at some level. And so that's why I really fully believe I don't do anything, you guys don't do anything that isn't motivated by achieving an emotional state. And that, I know I take it from the perspective of psychology because I'm a psychologist, but that's the reality. Is I'm not going to do anything that doesn't make me feel the way that I want. This morning on my show on Channel 10, I talked about the shadow self, which is, you think about anything that you go and do. If you walk away with resentment from the thing that you just did, there's a part of you in that shadow that you haven't really embraced yet. So you haven't really figured out how do you find your potential. Because you're not being honest with yourself. If you can't be honest with what you want, like I like success a lot. And I don't want to do things that don't move me towards success. And when I embraced that part of the shadow within me, it unlocked the next level of potential.
Absolutely.
And so Mother Teresa was seeking a feeling. She wanted to feel that she made an impact because that made her feel more in touch with God. Absolutely. If we understand that it's just a feeling that we're seeking, then you understand every aspect of why people do business with you. Yes. If you can't provide the feeling that person wants, they're out.
Right.
Same thing when you go experience dining. Like I love coming here to Fire Slice because I feel significant because they pay attention to me. Yes. Knowing that significance is a driver for me, I'm going to go to places that make me feel significant.
Yeah. The Cheers type atmosphere.
Right. It is. And Cody is wonderful at that. That's one of the reasons I love coming here as well. When they're just when you come in, they basically know what you want. They can have your order ready when you get here, and it can be sitting in front of you when you walk in and sit down.
It could.
Yeah.
It really,
but they're still going to ask.
Like it or not.
Like it or not.
No, there's no ask with Patrick.
You didn't want that today.
He gets what he gets.
You didn't want that today. This is what you need to try this.
Sometimes he didn't know that he wanted it. See, I'm like Apple. I give you things that you didn't even know you wanted.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that.
Something that was brought up in our leadership just talks that I wanted to kind of point out with what Jody was saying is, one guy said what we've done as a community or as a people is we've made selfishness be a negative term. Like, none of us want to be selfish. And in truth, it's a positive term. Being selfish is positive because now you're doing positive things for other people by being selfish.
Yes.
And the one thing that hit me that was brought up said, the way society has made us feel about being selfish is wrong. And let me explain, why we feel this way is, if we went on social media right now and we said, hey, we're going to end it all. I can't do this anymore. This is going to be my last day on earth, blah, 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 blah. You're crying for help. How many comments do you think you get?
Yeah.
A ton, right? You'd have everybody in their dog, don't do it. Life's important, blah, blah, blah. So now people are reaching out. But if Jody puts on his Facebook, I'm successful. I love being successful. Everyone would go,
there's like two people that are like, maybe you need to go to church more.
Yeah. So instead of encouraging him and saying, I'm glad you're successful. Thank you for helping me become successful. Thank you for what you instill. They'd all say, what a jerk, You really put that on there? So it takes us crying out in negativity for us to get responses versus us being positive and getting positive responses.
Yeah.
And so that just really explains how society has made us think like being selfish is negative when it's really not.
That's really, really good.
It really isn't. And if we built a community that said, hey, you're an entrepreneur, I'm going to eat at your place because I know you and you're an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that you're going against the big guys. And this is the part that when I first went into business back in 99, I would get so mad because they bring somebody in from freaking Chicago and I lived in Abilene at the time, to Abilene to do training. And I'm like, I'm right here.
Yeah.
But here's the problem. I was mad because they were better.
Yeah.
Which is why they got the contract and I didn't.
Right.
And when I started recognizing I don't need to be mad at somebody for being better than me, I need to be better than them so that I'm the one that they want. So that shadow, going back to part of that, I think the projection of I'm angry because I'm not better, you can't win if you're mad at people who are winning more than you.
Right.
You have to study what they're doing and go, I'm okay with wanting to be the best. That's what I want. I want to be a #1 New York Times bestselling author. So I've made friends with several of them so I can figure out what they're doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I want to be the most sought after keynote speaker. So I go after keynote speakers and go, what is it that you do that's different than me?
Yep.
I'm killing the ego so that I can get to the place that I wanted to be.
Right.
Strangely enough, the ego, the inability to admit that we're not already the best, that's what's killing us from becoming the best. So that's how selfishness, where I seek that higher position, leads to selflessness, which is I'm going to kill those parts of the ego that help me get to where I want to be. But if you can't kill the ego and get it out of the way, you can't integrate the shadow, which is what all of your untapped potential is.
Mm-hmm.
That's incredible. And the selfishness aspect of that causes us to want to grow, to want to succeed, to want to do better. If we're going to be mad at somebody, we need to be mad at our own lack of drive.
And ultimately, you don't need to be mad at anybody.
Right.
You need to get over being angry and just take it as an objective view of self and go, what is it that they're doing that I'm not doing? Because if anybody in the history of ever has accomplished what you want, it can be done.
It can be. Absolutely.
But you can't sit around and blame people for it not working. You have to sit around and go, well, let's try something different. Because how many times do you hear people say, well, I've literally tried everything. And you ask them, can you list all the things you've tried? And they come up with 2.
Yeah.
2.
Yeah, it's usually, well, I tried this and that didn't work. And then I tried this and that didn't work. So great quote that I hope people remember is, most people want to do what you do, but they don't want to did what you did.
Yeah.
That's a good
one. Yeah, that was it was
John Maxwell.
Jim Maxwell. I was thinking it was Jim Rohn for some reason.
He probably stole it from Jim Rohn.
Yeah, either or.
Those quotes get stolen by each other.
Yeah.
All the top guys do.
Most of Zig Ziglar quotes were actually somebody else that people forgot.
Yep.
Yeah.
But they remembered it when Zig said it.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it was because of the amount of money they paid to be at the convention they were at,
Right.
or the speaking event they were at. And the more you pay for the event, the more you're more apt to take notes and remember some of the things they said.
And most of that goes back to like Ralph Waldo Emerson and his law of compensation. You have to know what you're willing to give in order to get what you want. So it's what you have done that got you to where you're at. It's what you have to do that you haven't done that gets you to where you want to be.
Yeah.
Man, that's good. So good. See, I have smart friends, guys.
Yeah, he's got 2 friends now.
I have 2.
2.5.
Unless you count yourself.
Good morning, Gary, Marlene, Jimmy, a lot of people watching from all over, and appreciate that. We've got great viewership.
I think Jimmy woke up early today to watch.
Up early. Yeah. Gary makes this comment. It's unfortunate that we can't be successful without feeling guilt for being successful. I think being labeled selfish spawns from a jealous mindset. We need to be selfish and selfless at the same time. Great.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what we're.
So think about this with church, and this is where I've argued with pastors. If there's any pastors on, I'd love you to chime in, or heavy churchgoers on there. Church isn't about finding God. Church is about finding peace. It's the feeling of peace that people want. When you go do business with somebody, like if you hire me as an executive coach, I'm not a life coach. I want to be really clear.
Right.
I am not a life coach. I am an executive coach. I focus just on the business side. But if you want to be successful in business, what feeling is it that you want? For most people, it's the feeling of significance.
Yes.
We want to feel valued, important, significant. That's why we go hire somebody to help us get to that place. Why do we push ourselves to do more in 2022 than we did in 2021? Well, it's actually not significant. It's because we have an innate desire to become better. So we want growth or forward momentum. And Kyle, one of the guys who was on the retreat, when I first started coaching him, he's like, what is wrong with me? I'm broken. Why is it that I succeed? And then I always want to know what else. Mm-hmm. Well, some people are wired for what else. Mm-hmm. So I think we have to get over the guilt and to their point about we often feel guilty when we want more.
Yeah.
If you can't give what you don't have, which is an absolute truth, why wouldn't you want more? I think you're being selfish when you don't try to move yourself up. Like I donate a lot of money every year, but I can't donate money I don't have.
That's right.
So why would a nonprofit not want me to be wildly successful so that I could give them more money the next year?
Absolutely.
And it's out of our abundance that we give. It's never out of our lack. The selfish people are the ones that don't live into their full potential.
That's a great point.
Because that's truly selfishness is if you choose not to perform at your best so you have less to offer the world, shame on you.
Yeah.
You are wasting what was given to you.
That's incredible. Gina, your wife watching the show just commented exactly what we were talking about before the show.
What's that?
You've got to be a little selfish. You cannot fill from an empty cup. You cannot take care of others if you're not looking after yourself.
Yeah.
It's so good, Gina. It's true. I've used an analogy before of the cup with the straws, and your cup may be full, but you've got your cup on a saucer, but you're allowing everyone to put their straw into your cup. And and as they do that, they continue to deplete your resources. Mm-hmm. But you need to remove their straw and put it into your saucer.
Make it like a fondue. You're at the top.
As your cup overflows, they can benefit from the excess out of the abundance.
Well, see, now my secret's out. The only reason I ever sound smart is because I just listen to her.
Smart man.
Now she's saying it on here, so I don't have anything to say.
Gina will be on the show next week.
Yeah.
They're going to up the game.
Yeah,
you might want to invite my wife with Gina.
Yeah,
then.
exactly.
Yeah, that's it. Gina, you've got to be a little selfish.
Yeah, no, she's right. And you know, I mean, something to go along with that, you know, something we talked about during the retreat, it's big for, you know, for wives and to let us go on this and understand that it's not just a boys trip and we're out having fun and blah, blah, blah. We are working hard. We're grinding the whole time. And that we are leaving and doing this to be better men, to be better husbands, to be better leaders in the community, to be better business people. And, you know, a lot of wives I don't know would understand that. They just think, oh,
Right.
well, he's just going off to have fun with his buddies.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that we didn't have some fun.
Absolutely.
The camaraderie itself and getting to know each other and bonding was great. It was fun.
Yeah.
But I feel like I came back a better person. I feel like I came back a better husband. I feel like I came back, I think the goals that I had going, I came back, and it takes wives to understand that we are doing this for that reason. And I do appreciate that, that the wives that let us all go, let us go,
But I think if you're taking it from, go back to the selfishness, if I don't do this trip, I have less to offer.
Yeah.
And my revenue has gone up consistently since I started doing this. And it started with, I desperately needed a couple of smart guys to go hang out with me and mastermind. And the most successful people in the world take time to think and collaborate. You go back to Mr. Firestone and Mr. Ford. They summered together. So they're spending like 6 to 8 weeks in houses next door. And it ended up with the only tires that were put on Fords when they were made were Firestone tires.
Yeah.
And so you look at all of the things that people do throughout history and you go, oh, well, they're just a good old boys network. Well, why not be the president of the good old boys network?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So to me, the whole premise is I don't want to be mad at people for being where I want to be, because then I'll never be there. You can never have what you hate.
Yeah.
So if you have a disdain for successful people, you hate the 1%, you ain't going to be one of them.
Right.
That's for dang sure.
Right.
So, I mean, and a lot of those people are faking it when they say they hate that. Like AOC saying tax the rich on her dress and then turn around and selling $65 sweatshirts. I love a guy from Shark Tank, Mr. Fantastic or Mr. Wonderful that does all the wine and all that. He had a great video. He goes, hey, AOC, give me a call. You're the greatest capitalist I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. You're making a holy fortune off of this stuff.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people that are just lying about what they really want and trying to appeal to people who would hate instead of people who would love.
Yeah.
So when you come from a place of love, you don't hate either side. And this is not a political statement, but this is a success statement to say, you have to love everyone and everything before you can figure out what you really want. But politics gets us so sideways, like you should hate this group and you should hate this group and you should hate this group. That is the repression of the shadow or our potential. Do you want to be trapped? Do you want to be stuck? Great. Approach life from hate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's going to be a lonely life.
Very lonely, but there's a lot of lonely people in this world because that's what media and politics have tried to get us to do is to hate one another, when in reality, I want everybody to succeed. Vonnie and Tamian that are there, they compete with me, quote unquote, and I'm pouring into them and they're pouring into me. We're trying to help each other succeed, even though we do the same thing.
I firmly believe that collaboration beats competition any day.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Christine makes a great comment here. I think it's important not to generalize all people into the same motives, but there can also be many motives for doing something. Belonging, seeking, altruism, giving, receiving, socializing, etc. I think that, of course, the belonging and that seeking we talked about
those
in
are
the church
feelings.
setting, especially their feelings.
Yeah,
we want to feel that we belong to something bigger than us, a bigger collaborative.
Which is the first part of the intrinsic motivators from Abraham Maslow, but in the end, it's still feeling. Yeah. And so that's the hard generalization that we do is it is to find a feeling or avoid a feeling.
Pleasure and pain.
Yeah. So if you're avoiding guilt, then you might do something, but then you resent the fact that you did it because it goes against the principles of who you are. Yeah. If you figure out what you're seeking and you do things based on what you're seeking, what feelings you want, then you're happy. If you do things to avoid feelings, you still tend to be unhappy. So you double mess yourself over by doing it that way.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point. So we all want to belong. We all want to be happy. Mm-hmm. I think those are some of our key drivers in life.
It's the basic premise of motivational theory is that sense of belonging, and then the internal and external esteem needs. And ultimately, all of this is to realize the full self, or what Maslow called self-actualization, what Jung called individuation. It's to realize who we could be at our greatest potential.
Right.
Yeah. I never get tired of listening to Jody speak philosophy. I just love it. It's,
well, thank you.
I just love feeding into that. It's just amazing.
I always like being in a room with guys smarter than me.
Me too.
If you're the smartest guy in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Mm-hmm.
I say that a lot. Jimmy says you have to surround yourself with people better than you to elevate.
Yeah.
Well, you've taken.
And to his point, when you surround yourself with those great people, you're figuring out, what is it that I want to be? So Jung also talked about, you have this, not Jung, this was Carl Rogers. You've got the ideal self and you've got the realized self. So the ideal self is what you're striving for. And I see so much more potential in myself. But if I don't find those people who force me to face my shortcomings, my realized self, I'm never going to get there. That's the point of surrounding yourself with greatness, is you go, oh, geez, I've not been trying hard enough.
Yeah, agreed.
Well, it was a cool setting of a group of people that were so diverse and so different.
Yeah.
And we all literally taught a totally different subject, and how much that tied into coming back to exactly this was just incredible. That we all were teaching about something so opposite, and it still came back to not being selflessness. It's like,
right.
It was just incredible.
How many people in the room had a very small education about wine pairings, food?
There were 10 people in the room. 9 of us were pretty short on wine education. Mike was probably the most educated, but Mike, is a very sophisticated gentleman.
Yeah.
And he's the director of innovation for the city of Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
Yeah.
Freaking brilliant dude. He was next to Cody, he was the most educated. I didn't even know how to properly open a bottle of wine. It's like, that's how uneducated I was.
Right.
But so what surprises people is, a lot of people don't know how to properly open a bottle of wine. They think they do, but they don't. Even when I've been in Napa Valley, in restaurants in Napa Valley, they don't know how to open a bottle of wine. They haven't been taught.
Yeah.
You'd think of anywhere in the world or anywhere in the country, they do. And so it's a very simple thing, but not everyone necessarily knows how to do it correctly because they've never been shown. They think they know how to do it. And Mike, I could tell he had a good wine background because he was asking very good, educated questions. And in all truth, if it wasn't for Jody asking me, that's not what I would have trained on.
Right.
But I'm so glad that he did. I love teaching about wine, but in a leadership group, I wouldn't think that it would help at all. And he asked me to do it, so of course I was going to.
Well, and my point on it was, one of the most valuable courses I ever took was on etiquette at a restaurant, and figuring out which utensils do you use in what order, what does each one represent, what is the way that you seat yourself, what is the way that you carry a conversation. I took an 8-hour class on how to go out to eat with rich people.
There you go.
And
how many of us could learn something from that?
Oh my gosh, it was incredible.
By the raising of the hands.
Yeah, it was incredible. But this took it to the next level. I didn't know anything about wine or wine pairings, and just like learning why they swirl it. Like I didn't understand that. Why do you smell the wine? I just thought you're being sophisticated or snooty or whatever. And I'm like, I don't know what to do. It was amazing. Like I was literally eating that up. And Cody's over there going like, this is such basic stuff to him. But to everybody that's on this, there's something you're brilliant at that you think, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
Well, because I truly felt like I shouldn't even be in the room. I'm like, all these smart guys here, and all I'm teaching them is about wine.
It was fascinating, truly fascinating. And what's it called? You're a level 2
sommelier.
Yeah.
I
obviously didn't know what the word was. And Mike and him are over there. Mike's like, so what level sommelier are you?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm not.
Yeah.
And Cody's like, oh, I'm a level 2. And he's like, oh, that's impressive.
Yeah.
And I go, well, how many levels are there?
7.
There's 7 levels. Like, oh my gosh, there's people that spend that much more of their life figuring out wine,
Right.
but understanding, like you were talking about in the Austin Dripping Springs area, that one wine where they intentionally grow their grapes, where the smoke coming off of this barbecue place rolls down. Was it the Salt Lick?
So it's Fall Creek Winery, which I'm very close with the family. We actually stayed at this winery at the end of our honeymoon, Gina and I. But it's right across the street in Dripping Springs from the Salt Lick barbecue joint, which is very famous.
Phenomenal.
Well, they bought land literally directly across. So whenever the smoke comes over from Salt Lick, from the when they're smoking the meats, it's literally coming onto the grapes naturally, so you can taste that smoke flavor within the grapes. It's just such a neat deal.
And I didn't know why I loved their wine, but I love Salt Lick.
Now you know.
And I do a lot of work in the Dripping Springs area. I'm like,
you know.
oh my gosh, this place is incredible.
Yeah.
That's
So
amazing.
it's neat, but if you don't know, you don't know. You know? But there's also a lot of that going on within California wine grapes because of the fires and things like that. You'll taste it in there. But they actually do it naturally. It's just really, really cool.
I think a nugget in that setting where you are at is being in a room full of people that are high thinkers, that you are there to all learn from each other. And they were all intelligent enough to know they were listening to someone that could increase their knowledge.
Sure.
And the search for knowledge, that quest for knowledge, drives any high thinker.
But
they're like, he has something to offer that I should listen to because it's going to grow me as well.
Yeah.
I love that.
But even in that group of high thinkers, there's still a lot of insecurity. What you're talking about, like, how am I in this room with these people?
Yeah.
Everybody in that room felt that because of the imposter syndrome. You go, oh, I'm not enough.
I'm not enough.
But Kyle actually said this in his talk on essentialism, is that if you don't prioritize your life, somebody else will prioritize it for you.
Sure will.
And so that's part of the selfishness. The most successful people in the world, they work out at least 4 days a week. The most successful people in the world, they read at least 2 books a month. The most successful people in the world prioritize paying themselves before they pay everybody else in their business.
Yeah.
Like a lot of these things that were tough for me because I grew up a preacher's kid was, you should always take care of everybody else before you.
Me too. Yeah.
Were you a preacher's kid?
I was too.
Oh my gosh. No wonder you're messed up.
No, exactly. Yeah.
But
that's not the only reason.
Yeah, no, there's other reasons.
You gotta make sure you blow on your coffee so people don't know that we're drinking whiskey.
Yeah. Thanks for the reminder.
You gotta pretend.
Man, other drink that I now drink every freaking night, literally since this retreat, Irish coffee.
Really?
Yeah. He taught me how to make the best Irish coffee, and now I'm an Irish coffee connoisseur. I didn't even know I liked Jameson until that retreat.
Irish coffee.
Yeah.
How about that?
So learn to make it right. So, but you have to prioritize what's important to you. And I think if you look at strategic planning, for example, I spoke on that on Monday with a group. The whole point of a strategic plan is to prioritize what's important to you as a business.
Yes.
But we go through life, only about 3% of companies in the United States actually do a proper strategic plan and create proper goals. The other 97% go through some random exercise if they do anything, and then they forget about it.
If anything.
If you want to know why 3% of the businesses actually control the entire market, it's because they're the ones that do what they're supposed to do.
That's it right there. We, in my business, the group that I teach with and coach with, we have a clarity report. And we just tell everyone, you have to get clear. Mm-hmm. If you can't identify what you want in life, good luck achieving any of it.
You won't get any of it. It's not even a good luck. You're not going to. 100%.
You're not going to at all. So we have a clarity report. It's about 10 pages long.
Yeah.
It teaches you how to identify what do you really want.
The other thing you'll find is you don't have an accountability partner. If you don't have somebody that is your executive coach, you're not going to succeed at more than about 20% of your potential.
Right.
That executive coach pushes you. That's why I have one, even though that's what I do.
Even though that's what you do. Yep. Very important.
Yeah.
I feel like we're talking about a couple of my past shows. The last 3 shows in a row, we've talked about accountability partners, having one, and if you don't, what can happen? What won't happen? Number one, what won't happen if you don't have one?
Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
Brad's commenting on there. He was on the trip with us as well. I guess he's
He says I posted a couple of his comments. Better you is better for everyone.
Yeah.
So
he's
and
also,
Brad was awesome because he taught us.
He says the chef on the trip was fantastic.
He was.
Oh yeah,
he was.
That's awesome.
So Brad talked about how you get noticed and the importance of like SEO and things like that. He's absolutely brilliant at what he does. And several guys on there that were on the trip were like, oh my gosh, we didn't know any of this stuff. So sometimes we prioritize the self, but we don't prioritize the bigger self.
Right.
If you're not paying attention to that, one of Mike's old quotes was, just having a website is like having a road sign on a farm to market road. A few people might accidentally notice you, but not everybody.
Right.
So what Brad was teaching us is, how do you make that a giant road sign on the most prominent interstate in the world? That's what you're looking for. So that's what having SEO and having your site set up correctly and your Google My Business set up correctly and all your search terms set up correctly, that's what makes you noticed. That's prioritizing self as well. So all of this trip, which we didn't tell anybody a theme, teach whatever you want, although I did ask you, because you're an expert in that.
Right.
It ended up, how do we prioritize the self? I don't look at wine the same anymore. And now I actually know how I'm pairing stuff.
That's good.
So,
I love it. This was sounds like a trip I need to get invited to.
Yeah.
We'll see what we can do next year.
There you go.
I love it. Any final thoughts, guys, as before we end the show here?
So a couple of things that I wrote down. When we are resourceful enough, we find the resources to get to where we want to be. And that's my thought that I want to leave people with, is when you're resourceful.
Expand on that a little bit.
So resourcefulness is the ability to continue trying and modifying your approach until you get to the outcome you wanted. Resources is what people complain about. You got to have money to make money. That's a load of crap.
Right.
Because in reality, if you're brought up broke, you actually have a higher likelihood today in the United States of being a millionaire than someone who was brought up with millionaire parents.
Yep.
And that is a legitimate stat. So resourcefulness is the ability to keep adapting and overcoming until you get to where you want to be. But that is up here. Your resourcefulness ties directly to your image of self. And if you don't build the right image of self by prioritizing yourself, you're not ever going to change and adapt. So you're not ever going to get to where you want to be.
I love it. Man, that's good. It does all start up here, right?
All of it.
If you don't get your mindset
it all
right,
exists up there.
I wanted to bring up something that was, again, brought up that I thought was really neat. Going back to our subject, if you feel good, you're going to make other people around you feel good, right?
Right.
And one thing that we talked about was taking things even deeper to what makes you feel good, what makes you happy, right? Mm-hmm. So if you write down 10 things that make you happy, it'll change your whole outlook throughout the day. That's something I actually taught my employees last Sunday. Is one guy brought up, well, the sun makes me happy, and so now he goes outside and every time he sees the sun, he's happy, versus when he would just go outside and the sun was up, it didn't give him that.
It became intentional.
Yeah. So, do that for yourself. Write down 10 things that make you happy, and it'll really change your outlook throughout your day and throughout your life.
Yeah.
I believe in that wholeheartedly, and teach on the show as well. A list is one of the best things you can do. Write down the pros and cons about every decision you need to make, if that's what you need to make to get to making a decision. What is it that makes you happy?
Yeah.
What are you seeking in life? What is it really?
There's another scientific method that I teach a lot of young people about making life decisions, and it's to flip a coin.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that is because if you say, okay, heads, I'm going to do this, tails, I'm not, and you flip the coin, before you look at the coin, you know what you hope it is.
You already know. That's good.
And that's why it's actually scientific.
Wow.
Is because if you go, it's tails, I'm going to do 2 out of 3.
Yeah.
Well, the moment you change the parameters of the game, you know what you really wanted.
Yeah.
So just do what you wanted.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But I like lists, and I've challenged people to make a list of 300 things that you want to accomplish in your life. Because if you make a list of 300 things, and then you start trimming off, what could I be willing to give up? And this is a process to go through.
Yeah.
You start getting it whittled down to what you'd be willing to give up, and you realize what you actually want.
Yeah.
there's usually about 25 to 30 things you really want in life. But if you make an exhausted list of everything and then you're forced to eliminate things, you'll get down to the things that you would never give up.
Probably watching 4 or 5 hours of TVs on your list of 300, but would probably be whittled off in order for you to get to the 25 that you need to get to.
Exactly.
A lot of personal time, a lot of things that people add to their day that is wasted time.
Yeah.
And you may think that makes you happy. We were talking about TV shows. Mm-hmm. Some of the shows that I have not even started watching. I'm not a TV series guy anymore. And I could get involved in watching all of the latest, binging on Netflix, watching seasons of shows. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't line up with who I want to be in life and what I'm trying to get out of life. So maybe that's a selfish decision, which is good.
All decisions are selfish. That's the whole point of this whole conversation is in the end, all decisions are selfish.
Yes.
But,
you just have to embrace what you want.
Yeah. Watching TV is not negative. It's just, it's what you're watching, right? So, I mean, if you're like, I watch a ton of History Channel, National Geographic. I watch a lot of that stuff that it fuels me. I mean, I learn things that, I like learning about nature.
That's
I like learning more about
that's learning time
about history. Yeah. So TV is not necessarily bad. It's what you're watching.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed.
That's for sure.
Guys, I cannot thank you enough.
Absolutely.
For being on the show today. Cody.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
Thank you so much. Jody, you guys are the best.
Thank you.
We'll do this again. You guys let me know in the comments below if you guys want to have these guys back on the show in the future. Just like Cody, I'm going to continue to try to look at the camera, not the computer.
That's hard to do.
The computer is the cockpit of the show right now. So it's hard not to look at the screen itself.
Well, and if you put it over by the camera, you can't read the comments.
Then I can't read the comments and get everyone interactive on the screen. It's been a wonderful show today, a little bit longer than we normally go, and it was worth it, and that's the reason why. As always, we appreciate everyone watching Midweek Motivation Live each and every week. Like the show. Share it with your family and friends. If this has helped you, share it with friends. The people that share the show today will be entered in a drawing for some swag. Midweek Motivation Live.
I'll throw in a gift card for that.
Cody will throw in a gift card with that. Yeah, share the show. If you're watching this on YouTube, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Click the bell to turn on the notifications. If you're interested in reaching out to Jody,
JodyHolland.com with a Y. Jody with a Y.
Jody with a Y. JodyHolland.com.
Jody and Cody, we're going to make it a road show.
Yeah. That's it. It's going on the road, man. Buy a bus.
Yeah, it's the Odie show.
Around. I love it. And Jody has written multiple books. I've taught out of hypnotic selling and a couple of other books on the show in the past. Great material. Yeah. And of course, if you need pizza, wings, wine, pairings,
this is the place to be.
You need to be at Fire Slice, 34th and Coulter in Amarillo.
Half price wine on Wednesdays.
Half price wine on Wednesdays.
That's the real reason.
That's the shame of the selfish plug. That's the selfish plug.
Wing Wednesday and Wine Wednesday.
Yeah. And Wine Wednesday. Hey, if you're interested in buying a home, selling a home, or investing in real estate, click on the link to my digital business card in the comments below this video, www.patricklee.work. And I'll be sure and reach out to you, and we'll set up an appointment to get together and talk. Until next week, this has been Midweek Motivation Live. You guys have a wonderful day. We'll talk to you
Happy
soon.
Thanksgiving, everybody.
Happy Thanksgiving.